Greetings, everyone. This is Chris Frederick from StretchToWin.com, and I am really excited tonight to be interviewing one of my graduates, Holly Mae Lynch from New Zealand. She is the one and only fascial stretch therapist in New Zealand at the moment, and we're excited about that. And she's working with professional rugby athletes, in particular James Oliver. And I'm real excited to have both of these guests to talk about how fascial stretch therapy, let's see if it helps the rugby player. I haven't really spoken to him yet. This is live, this is raw, so I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I hope you are too. So we're going to get started with Holly. Greetings, Holly.
How's it going?
Pretty good. And actually, I'll just say it too. Greetings, James.
Hi, Chris. Good to be here.
Good. Thanks so much. So, Holly, we're going to start with you. Can you tell our listeners about your training? You know, what else do you do besides FST, and how did you get involved with athletes in general and with rugby players, or James in particular?
So before FST, I was mainly working as an exercise coach and lifestyle coach. So trying to use movement to help people's performance and reduce sort of causes for pain and injury physically. So that sort of came down to looking at muscles that might be out of balance, that might be too long, and trying to shorten them up and stretch the muscles that were too short. And working with athletes has kind of just come about, has just become a little niche. And there's sort of, rugby in New Zealand is really huge. So everybody, most guys play rugby, so you're bound to come across rugby players. And in New Zealand, a lot of athletes are actually non-professional as well. So I would sort of put athletes into the category of not necessarily having to be professional, but they get the same sort of injuries, and often they don't have the same recovery.
Okay.
So that's sort of how I've come to work with athletes, because I think everybody just about is an athlete.
Well, I'm very excited to hear what both of you have to say about rugby injuries and what it takes to be in the game, and what gets tight, what impacts the player in a negative way, and hopefully how FST in a positive way can change that. Because I think rugby is one of the most challenging sports for a human being to play. And having not played the game myself, but I've seen it, and I'm very impressed with it. I've always wished I could have got involved in it, but I just haven't. And so I'm very excited on that end to hear about the particulars, because it's very important to hear about the specifics of different sports and what affects the athletes in those specific sports. So when did you first get trained in fascial stretch therapy, and how did you use it first with James?
I came across to Phoenix in March 2014, so this year. So it was kind of an easy decision for me to make. I first got the Stretch to Win book and just totally fell in love with everything in there, and then got the video and started looking up online, and then sort of just felt like I had to go. And it's just completely changed everything that I do since I've come back. I use it a lot and I found it really beneficial with not only rugby players, but like triathletes and cyclists, and the rugby players as well, especially because they can do a lot of work in the gym and don't necessarily do a lot of stretching.
Right.
So still having that sort of sponginess and the feeling good and that sort of thing has been really, really beneficial. And a lot of them, if they're training, 5 or 6 days a week, and then having to also play a game at peak performance, that's been really good for allowing them to sort of recover. So if I stretch them, especially like a lot of them like getting stretched on a Friday night before a Saturday game, and that helps them after a week's full-on training, trying to, make heaps of gains in the gym and increase their strength and that sort of thing, then having to go out on a Saturday and play as best as they can is challenging for a lot of them. So sure. That's where I found it's such a huge benefit.
Could you give me a picture with James listening and present about what he looked like, and on lots of levels when you first got him in, and now it would be like how many sessions has he had, do you think, or how many months have you worked with him, and what did he look like flexibility wise, and whatever other tests you did? What was he like then, and what improvements do you think he got from your perspective?
Yeah, so I mean, we've been working just together, just doing FST, nothing else. So one of the coolest things that happened, which I've seen other people do, and I wasn't sure if it was going to work at first, was I measured his height. So I did this quite basically, but it ended up with a good sort of centimetre of height increase.
Awesome.
Which was really exciting because I sort of said at the start, I don't know if this is going to work, but we'll see at the end of the session what's going to happen. So that was really cool. And James is a big guy.
Say that again. What did you get? Did you get a measurement?
Yeah, about a centimetre.
You did get a centimetre. Sorry.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure. Oh, that's a lot. Okay.
Yeah. So I sort of, I sort of was sceptical. I didn't want to sort of talk it up too much in case nothing happened, and then I sort of made myself look silly, but actually it worked really well. So that was cool because James is a big guy anyway. He's really got a lot of muscle and stuff. So he was already rather tight, and he's had an injury. I think he said about 4 months ago he had surgery on his shoulder. Mm-hmm. So he's actually been in recovery time now in rehab. And then he's had issues with his body since then, trying to get back into training after having time off. And with athletes, like, you want a short turnaround, so being able to sort of make the transition into retraining smoother.
Okay.
I think, and in terms of flexibility and stuff, when he first came in, I measured his range of motion, and it was pretty tight. I don't think he was probably as tight as I expected him to be with the amount of muscle that he has.
Right.
But in terms of like a straight leg hamstring stretch, which I measured to start with, from memory, that was at about a 70-degree angle, and it was well over. It's well over 120 degrees, so it's quite an increase. Mm-hmm. And I find that his body responds really well to it. Mm-hmm. It's not painful for him. It's not. I think it's quite relaxing. And another thing I think was sleep as well. It's really helped. That's one of the biggest things I find with all my clients, is it helps them get a really good night's sleep, which is so important, especially I find with endurance athletes that can have cortisol issues as well.
God, yeah.
Yes, that's one of the. If some people, like, they just come to get a good night's sleep, they know afterwards that they're going to have a deep sleep, and that's just such a huge benefit for them.
Oh, it's totally huge, because we all know you heal at night. You heal when you sleep, and if you don't sleep, you can rapidly get into a very bad state of trying to catch up with the healing process of your body. And for an athlete, that is devastating. They have to recover from game to game, practice to practice. And I don't know about you, James, but we'll talk to you in a minute. But our football players here, I can't tell you how many of them are dependent on, I'm trying to remember that popular sleeping aid. I think it starts with an A over here. But they all basically take that sleeping pill or two. And I don't think it's such a good idea to rely on, medications like that. But, they if FST can have you sleep naturally without sleeping aids like drugs that you have to take with those side effects, I mean, so much the better, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's shoot to James. We'll get back to you, Holly, but I want to hear from James. How you doing, James?
I'm well, thanks.
Good. I'd like to know from you what was your impressions about fascial stretch therapy? Just in a summary, what has it done for you?
I think first of all, it's really helped, as Holly mentioned, with my injury rehabilitation. So I had an issue last season, a dislocation in my shoulder, probably 3 times. So I decided to get surgery in the off season, and the biggest thing for me has been the increase in the range of motion through that, but also helping with my flexibility, like Holly said, notoriously tight hamstrings. So for me, it's been a really probably a different way of doing things, and so I'm definitely enjoying it too much.
Let me ask you about your shoulder. Did they basically do the shrinkage of the capsule where they kind of tightened up so it wouldn't dislocate again?
That's right, yeah, anterior stabilization.
Okay.
So yeah, cut me open, pull me all tight, and start back up again.
All right. And do you have full range of motion now?
I'm pretty close to it. I think I'm still a month away from the end date of recovery, but I'm perhaps 5 degrees off.
Were you doing physio at the time too?
Yeah, so it's in conjunction with physio. I but I find that I probably don't get, with the physio, you probably don't get just that a level of time, and
right.
And Holly's been really good, just working it just to the point of just at the end of range, not pushing it through.
Right.
And she spoke to the, well, she got information directly to her from the physio as well as to what I can and can't do.
Okay, perfect. Good luck with that. So with the hamstrings, was that out of your whole body? Was that really the most troublesome in terms of flexibility?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
It's been something that is ongoing for me. And I don't know, rugby players in New Zealand are typically pretty negligent of that kind of thing as you grow up.
Yeah.
You'd rather get out and train or play than spend time on flexibility. But I'd say if I had my time again, I'd tell a younger me that it was more important than I thought it was.
So flexibility is not emphasized in your career from a youngster all the way up to now, a young lad. I don't know what you call a young person.
Yeah, lads are right. Probably not then. I think it's definitely becoming more of a focus as the game has gone professional and people are becoming more aware of these things. So yeah, now it's becoming a much bigger focus for trainers and conditioners. But certainly when I was growing up, it wasn't as focused on as it is now.
Have you noticed any change in your squats after Holly's worked on your loosen up your hamstrings? Can you squat any differently than before, or you can't say?
Yeah, no, definitely. I actually did a session yesterday, and I find that depth is becoming less of an issue. So it's not as hard to get that depth that we need for testing and things like that. So I've probably got more strength at the end of my range than previously.
That is really important, obviously, for obvious reasons. If you get a deeper squat, you can strengthen the muscle on stretch and deeper range of motion, which makes it a stronger muscle, so you'll help the glutes as well.
That's right. So it's all good for me.
Yeah, for the deadlifts too, as well as squats. So that's a great side benefit.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. So that's the physical part. Now, tell us about the sleep. Is that something that you experienced, that you sleep better, or?
Yeah, I've probably found that it's a deeper sleep. I noticed, especially after the first few sessions, which were later in the day, in the afternoon, and one coming out of the session, it was you get that kind of, I don't, it's hard to explain, but it's sort of the semi-euphoric sort of state, which was quite cool. But then also at night, I found myself being able to relax a lot earlier and then staying in a deeper sleep until it's time to get up. Yeah,
that's fantastic. So, in terms of speed, agility, quickness, have you noticed any difference in running? If you're doing that now, if you have any comments about that.
Well, being that I've been injured, I haven't actually done a lot of running of late. But so for me, it's probably been more in terms of range of motion and then strength training in the gym. I've sort of returned to run program this week and next week, so it will be interesting to see what kind of benefits it has there.
Yeah, because the shoulder is involved in running. Obviously, if you're sprinting, you got to pump through your arms, and the shoulder surgery is going to affect that. But you have pretty much full range of motion. You don't need full range of motion for running, but you do need to be able to drive your torso with your arms, right, and your legs.
Yeah, that's right, and that's probably why I haven't been partaking in that at the moment. So, and probably why I was so tight when I first came to see Holly.
Okay, fantastic. So if you have any advice for other young rugby players in terms of flexibility training, last words?
Yeah, from someone that's been around for a wee while now, I'd recommend making it a really important part of your training routine. I think there's probably not enough time or dedicated sessions spent on flexibility in the gym or where it happens to be. So, yeah, I guess if I was a young guy having my time again, I'd certainly make allowances and include it as a very important part of my training routine.
Awesome, thanks for that. And Holly, any last comments?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know you guys talked about it at the course, how much going to this training has improved people's businesses, and you sort of when you hear that, you sort of, you're hopeful, but you don't really know if it's going to be like that for you. Mm-hmm. And I've just been absolutely amazed with how FST has completely changed how I deal with people, the kinds of people that I can help, and I've never had sort of the feeling of being able to make people feel sort of people with like fibromyalgia and back issues and that sort of thing. It's always been such a long-term sort of a way of working with them, and just to make people feel so great in one session is such an amazing feeling. And the other amazing thing that I've found is people will give gifts to each other as FST sessions as gifts, which has just been such a cool feeling that somebody actually, people want to help each other, and they'll sort of pay for other people to have sessions and stuff, and that's not something as a trainer that I've ever experienced before. So there's so many new things, and it's just the sort of environment that you guys created over there just like blew me away in terms of a learning environment and stuff. So it's just totally opened a new world, and I just encourage anybody that's thinking about going to the training. I know I'm trying to push people from New Zealand to go over, and that's why I'm going straight back for level 2 in October, because the sort of don't even worry about the money, because it's not even, it took me a really short time, and I made back the money of the course, and it has blown me away. So thank you again for your guys opening this world up to everyone. I know you hear that a lot, but it's just unbelievable.
Well, thank you so much. We never get tired of hearing that. And listen, Holly, thanks for representing FST in New Zealand first. You're the pioneer. And I'm really excited that you can have an impact on rugby players who really desperately need this work, as James would probably agree. And, hopefully his teammates will come in as well. And, of course, you have to watch out, James, that they don't take your time slot. I know you're very protective of that.
Big time.
Yeah, so I know that. But I want to thank you both again for your time. Be sure to stay on when we hang up. Just stay on the line. And to the listeners, I hope you enjoyed that interesting insight into the rugby player, their needs for fascial stretch therapy, how it helps. And we hope to be having Holly again in the future on these calls as she develops more programming for the rugby players. So have a good night all. Thanks for listening. Till next time, this is Chris Frederick, stretchtowin.com. Take care. Bye-bye.